Hello Jerry, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
Hi Joanna, I'm doing well, thanks for asking. I'm excited to be here and have the opportunity to talk with you about the web developer position.
Great, let us dive right in. Tell me a little about your experience with HTML and CSS.
Sure. I have a solid foundation in both HTML and CSS. During my studies, I created multiple web pages from scratch using HTML and styled them with CSS. I have also worked on some personal projects where I've utilized CSS frameworks like Bootstrap and Tailwind to make my web pages look more professional and responsive.
That's great to hear. How about your experience with JavaScript?
I'm comfortable with JavaScript. I know how to use it to add dynamic functionality to web pages. I've created a few simple applications, like a calculator and a weather app, using JavaScript. I've also worked with jQuery, which I use to make AJAX requests and handle events.
Excellent. We are looking for someone who has experience with React. Can you tell me a bit about your experience with React?
Yes, I've completed a course on React and created a few small applications. I understand the basic concepts of React, such as components and props, and I've used it to build user interfaces. I'm also familiar with the React development environment, including Node, JS and Webpack.
That's impressive. What about Git? Do you have any experience using Git for version control?
Yes, I have experience with Git. During my studies, I used Git to collaborate with classmates on projects and to keep track of changes I made to my own code. I'm familiar with Git commands such as clone, commit, push, and pull. I also have some experience with GitHub and GitLab.
Great to hear. Now let us talk about your skills. Can you tell me about a time when you had to work in a team?
Absolutely. During my studies, I worked on several group projects where I collaborated with other students to develop web applications. We had to divide up the work and assign tasks to each team member. I was responsible for the front-end development, and I communicated with my teammates to ensure that we were all on the same page. We used Asana to manage our tasks and deadlines, and we were able to deliver a successful project on time.
That's great to hear, Jerry. How about a time when you faced a difficult problem while developing a web application?
One time, I was working on a project and I was having trouble with the responsive design. I had tried different approaches, but I couldn't get the layout to work correctly on smaller screens. I didn't want to ask my teammates for help right away, so I decided to take a break and come back to it later. When I returned to the project with fresh eyes, I was able to identify the issue and fix it by making some adjustments to the CSS code. I learned that taking a step back and giving yourself time to think can be really helpful when faced with a difficult problem.
That's great to hear, Jerry. Let us move on to some technical questions. Can you explain the box model in CSS?
Sure. The box model in CSS refers to the way elements are represented as boxes, with content, padding, borders, and margins. The content area is where the actual content of the element is placed. The padding is the space between the content and the border is the line surrounding the padding, and the margin is the space between the border and other elements on the page.
Excellent explanation, Jerry. Can you give an example of a time when you had to solve a complex coding problem?
Sure. During my studies, we were working on a project that required a lot of integration between different systems. I ran into an issue where one system was returning data in a different format than the others. It took some time, but I was able to find a solution that involved writing a custom parser to convert the data into the correct format.
That sounds like a challenging problem to solve. How do you stay up to date with the latest web development technologies and trends?
I love to read blogs and articles on web development. I also attend webinars and workshops, and I am a member of a few developer communities where we share ideas and knowledge. In addition, I continue to take online courses and certifications to stay updated on the latest technologies.
That's great to hear, Jerry. Can you give an example of a project that you are particularly proud of?
Sure. I worked on a project where we had to build a responsive website for a charity organization. It was a challenging project, but I was able to utilize my knowledge of Bootstrap and Tailwind to create a visually stunning website that was also highly functional. The project received great feedback from the client and their donors.
Impressive work, Jerry. Can you tell me about your experience with Git and version control?
Yes, I have experience using Git for version control, and I have used it in conjunction with GitHub for collaborative projects. I am familiar with creating and merging branches, resolving merge conflicts, and pushing and pulling changes.
Great to hear, Jerry. How do you prioritize tasks when working on a project?
When working on a project, I like to break it down into smaller tasks and prioritize them based on their importance and deadlines. I usually create a to-do list and use tools like Asana and Trello to manage and track progress. I also make sure to communicate regularly with the team to ensure we are all on the same page.
Good to know, Jerry. Can you give an example of a time when you had to work under a tight deadline?
Sure. During my studies, we had a group project where we were tasked with building a web application in just 2 weeks. We had to work efficiently and effectively, dividing up the work and communicating regularly to ensure we met the deadline. Despite the tight timeline, we were able to deliver a working application that met all the requirements.
Well done, Jerry. Finally, do you have any questions for me or anything else you would like to share?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I am excited about the possibility of working with your team. Can you tell me more about the company culture and the team dynamic?
Of course, our company values collaboration, creativity, and innovation. We have a diverse and talented team that values open communication and teamwork. We also provide opportunities for professional development and growth. Do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you for your time and for sharing that information with me. I look forward to hearing from you soon.